Hola a todos, soy Alejandra Campos de Campos Law Firm. El día de hoy vamos a hablar sobre defensa criminal y tengo aquí a la abogada especialista que es la doctora Yanis. Yanis, thank you so much for being here.
Of course.
So I think we have a good case that you wanted to talk, right?
Yeah, for sure. So we actually had a great victory last week. We had a client that was charged with multiple counts of domestic violence, where his ex-girlfriend actually made false accusations against him. We did take the case all the way to trial, and a jury of 6 people unanimously agreed that our client was not guilty on any of those charges in about 15 minutes. So that was a great win for us.
That is nice. And that shows what is the importance of actually hiring a lawyer, right?
Yes,
Can you tell me
100%.
what would be the scenario of him if he would have not hired a lawyer
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
tried to go by himself?
Yeah, absolutely. So our client, he was not a citizen. So any sort of domestic violence charges can significantly impact him. He could have been detained. He could have been, he wouldn't have been able to get eligible for relief in the future. So those are huge things that he was worried about. And on top of that, there are other consequences like, the employer would have fired him or he's not able to find housing because the domestic violence conviction stays on your record forever. You can't even get rid of it.
Oh, and especially a person without documents in this country after a charge of domestic violence, he will actually be probably picked up by ICE after he will have gone off finishing court. So we didn't only help him on his criminal charge, we actually prevent a deportation process.
Yes.
When we got a jury trial that considered him innocent, right?
Yeah.
So that's something else to show you how lawyers add value to your case. So Yanis, can you tell me what is the recommendation that you have for people that receive an order that they need to present to court?
Yeah, so I recommend that you immediately talk to us the minute you get a ticket or you get an order to show up to court. This client of mine I've had for about a year, he came right to us the minute he got the papers to go to court. So we were able to get ahead of things and we were very prepared for his trial, which is, I think that's one of the reasons why we won is because the prosecutor wasn't prepared, but we were.
Exactly. And I understand that the prosecutors will not be prepared when they have thousands of cases in their plate that they have to deal. But you dedicate the time to hear the story of the client, you actually believe in the client, and you brought to the court all the evidence that it was required to win the case, right?
Exactly.
And when you were talking about tickets, do you think that a client should just hire you when they get a big, for any case, or what do you see out there? Because people say, oh, no, I don't need to pay for a lawyer. They are going to assign me one. What can you say about that?
100%. So I am recommend you hire a lawyer for even a speeding ticket, right? Because a lot of times it can save you a lot of headaches. So for example, with a traffic ticket, like a speeding ticket, for example, we can actually go to court for you sometimes. And it would avoid all this headache of being possibly detained by ICE. And those kinds of things. When you do go with a public defender, well, they're good lawyers, but there's a lot of delay. Like I have seen people take months to get a public defender. And even when they do get a public defenders have hundreds of cases. So they don't have the time to dedicate to you.
And usually they just want to negotiate and they're like, oh, this is what this is what they are willing to offer you. And that's it, right? So they are not really going to have all the time to really negotiate to get the best favorable.
Yeah, and honestly, they have very limited resources too. So if you're Spanish speaking or you speak another language besides English, sometimes they can't even talk to you until the day of court. And that's, to me, is just not a good way to represent a client, but they really don't have the choice because they have very limited resources.
And you were mentioning about the speeding tickets, and people don't know that they can hire us, right? That we have a department that can actually help them. Yes. And it's not just the convenient that they don't need to go to court, but that you actually will negotiate to maybe reduce the points. I mean, because what happens is that they don't know that eventually, if they get more tickets, their license could be suspended, right?
Yeah, exactly. So sometimes people don't see this, but what when we as attorneys go into court and we negotiate with the prosecutor or the city attorney, we know what is a good offer and what is not. So sometimes we apply pressure on these prosecutors that the normal person may not know. So we are able to get results much faster than if you go by yourself.
That's totally understandable. And I could expect that people are not familiar with that, and they think that there is no negotiation and that they just need to pay and that they will lose 4 points when there is a possibility to actually negotiate down, right?
Exactly. Or sometimes people see like, oh, I just have to pay a fine, there's no big deal, and then they plead guilty to something. So what we see a lot is people who drive without a license, and the offer was for them to plead guilty to driving without a license, and they just have to pay a fine. So people think, well, I just have to pay a fine, no big deal. But the thing they don't understand is that those convictions stacks up, and eventually you'll get a more aggravated charge where there is a potential of jail time. So we don't want people to be there.
Yes, I remember there was a client that has already several tickets for driving without a license, and eventually I think they put him in jail, right? I think that
yeah. So once you get enough of those driving without a license, you can be considered a habitual traffic offender, and there is an in-home detention or a jail sentence involved. So we try to prevent that from the beginning. Like the first charge you get, we try to prevent it as much as possible.
And the other thing that we see a lot is that, especially in this environment right now with immigration, we see a lot of abuse of people that are involved in a relationship where the person that has documents in United States is taking advantage and is calling the police on the person that doesn't have status, and is creating a huge problem. I think we get clients every single day, right? That they go charged with domestic violence, with assault, whatever. And some of these stories are not real, but the problem is that they already got charged, right? So they need to defend themselves. And the other problem is that if they don't hire a lawyer immediately and it doesn't get dismissed, then ICE is waiting for them.
Oh, yeah, 100%. So, when police shows up, unfortunately, sometimes police believe the person that explains better. And when, if you have a wife or a husband who is English speaking, they tend to believe that person more. And police don't always do a very good job investigating. And that's why it's really important you hire an attorney so we can look into it and we can tell your story to the prosecutor.
Yes, and right now, immigration and criminal defense is very intertwined.
Yes,
because we see how it's affecting, and we see we see how people try to come and hire us as lawyers for immigration too late, when there is already a conviction on the criminal on the records for a criminal charge. And the problem is that at that moment you can have an excellent case for immigration, and we still cannot protect you because it's already discretional. The judge says that a person that doesn't have a good moral character, because you already had a charge, a criminal charge, then you're a person that doesn't have good moral character, so that you don't qualify for all the immigration proceedings. You cannot qualify for a relief, and then you will get deported. Right? And people don't understand sometimes the implications. There are some clients that say, oh, no, that's okay. I have been living here for several years, 10, 15, 20 years. And, I go to court and I pay my fine and everything is okay. But yes, not everything is the same. Now, the laws on immigration are more rigorous. And as soon as you get a charge, you are in trouble. You don't need to have a conviction. You only need to be charged, and then you are already in danger of getting your immigration deportation in process.
100%. So, like, we see a lot of clients like this where they come in after the fact and we're saying, like, what can we do? At that point, it's nothing. You can't do anything. So that's why it's really important when you're charged to immediately come to us so we can help. And that's why it's so important to have an attorney that understands immigration and criminal defense together. Because we have clients that come in, they're accused of certain charges. It doesn't mean they're guilty, or they already had a conviction before, And, we have actually made arguments in front of the immigration judge telling them the intimate details of what these charges mean so that the judge has a better understanding of the criminal world. And it has been effective in the past where they're like, okay, actually, this charge is not as bad as I think it is. So it's very important you have an attorney that has an understanding of both worlds.
Totally. And there are so many things that people don't understand, right? Like, for example, we had seen a lot of clients that are DACA recipients, and then they get charged on a crime. And oh my God, they actually, because they grew up in this country and everything, they think that they have a permanent residence, and when it's not, and we see these people then in detention. And after that, they are picked up by ICE, and a deportation process starts.
Yes, and that's why it's so crucial that when there is any sort of charges to come to an attorney, so the attorney can advise you of the proper consequences. We have seen people that pick up criminal cases since they were teenagers, and they come to us years later, and they tell us, well, I picked up that charge, 10 years ago. It doesn't matter to the immigration court. They do care about these things. So that's why it's really important, like when you're a teenager, you pick up a charge, come to us immediately so an attorney can help you.
And going back to these relationships that are very toxic, people don't understand the danger that they are facing in this relationship, not only for their safety, but the implications for immigration when they get charged. And it's so sad because sometimes we see real victims being processed because they didn't step up, because they didn't move out, because they keep themselves quiet. Sometimes the victim looks like the aggressor, right? When 100%. It's not. And you probably see that. Can you give us an example where you are like, oh God, what happened here?
Yeah, 100%. So we have seen clients where it's a husband and a wife. The husband clearly learns more English than the other. They get into an argument, and the husband calls the police and claims that she hit him, or she took his stuff or broke his stuff, and she couldn't explain herself because there's no interpreter. And that happens quite often, is that sometimes police don't even care to provide an interpreter for people, and they believe the husband. And that's when we are her voice during this process, right? If a prosecutor is not believing her, we will go to trial and we will have a jury believe us. So those are things that are really crucial that you can't do by yourself.
And the most important thing is that, if they will have contact us with enough time before they get a criminal charge, in the immigration side, we will have helped them to get a status because they were a victim of domestic violence, because they were a victim of a crime through a U visa, or if the aggressor was an American citizen or resident, we could have done a BAGWA for them. If we could have done a lot of things if they would have called before. But usually, there is this relationship is so toxic, and they are suffering so much they don't know how to ask for help. And Janice, I had seen that sometimes, and you probably had seen it, when the aggressor is the woman, and she has papers, and she feels, she's treating the husband as a slave. She's taking the money, she's spending the money, she's not working, she is insulting him, she's threatening him to call immigration, to call police so that they get deported, and she's never done until she actually gets the husband deported.
100%. Like, regardless of gender, anyone can be a victim. And it actually, when it's the husband or it's the boyfriend, it is actually 100 times harder for us, because a lot of times it's really hard to admit that you are a victim. But that's why it's really important to talk to an attorney so we can have a confidential conversation about your options. On top of criminal things, if you need protection, you can always apply for a civil protection order as well. So don't ever wait for getting a charge or waiting until you get picked up by ICE. You should be proactive, not only protecting yourself, but also protecting your future.
That's true. And then when there are these civil protection orders and everything, it's easier for us to show that you are really the victim, right?
Yes.
And then that you need protection from the government, and that will also probably give you to a pathway to get also immigration documents and get a residency in this country.
Yes. So if you ever feel like you want a civil protection order, you always come and talk to an attorney here at Campos. We do represent people for those things as well. So don't ever hesitate.
And the other good thing is that, people say sometimes I really want to hire a lawyer, but I'm afraid I don't have the money.
Mm-hmm.
And the good thing is that, first of all, our first consultation is totally free of charge. If you come in person, we had several offices.
Yes.
And also we give you payment plans. So if you plan ahead, you can hire us for the immigration side, you hire us for the criminal side, and you hire us for every area of law where you need help.
Yes, 100%. Like, we're very flexible with our pricing. We're always here for you. And if you have multiple cases, we can even give you strategies on like what you should work on first. We have had plenty of clients who have had like a criminal case and a family case happening at the same time. And we give them strategies on which one they should resolve first. And it has been very successful.
That's true. Another area of the criminal side that we represent are the juveniles,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little about that and why
Yes.
it's so important actually to hire us when your kids are facing a criminal charge?
So yeah, it's very important for you to get an attorney when your children are looking at a criminal charge, because it could affect your kid's future, right? Like going to college, getting a job in the future. It could really jeopardize your child's future. And on top of that, your kid is not going to understand fully how the legal system works. It's very complicated. There's a special set of rules for juveniles. So that's why it's very important that you have a specialist. And we do have specialists here at Campos Law Firm. One of our attorneys, Caitlin Johnson, she's a specialist in juvenile law.
Exactly. And definitely, it could affect this child forever. And that's what you need to do. You brought your kids to this country because you wanted for them to have a better future. But if you don't protect them, the criminal system in the United States is one of the most rigorous in the whole world. And then the records of the kid could stay forever. It will affect them in just what you say, in all areas, right? So it's very
100%.
important to protect them. And we are talking about cases that people sometimes they don't know. We are talking like maybe the kid got in trouble in school, and they are and the parents say, "Oh, they just sent me to court, but should be nothing. They sent me to sign this document, and they didn't know they were signing actually, very important document that they should have reviewed. They actually should have called us so that we represent them in court."
Yeah. 100%. I've met with clients who are adults now who said, well, I had a charge when I was a teenager. I don't remember what I pled guilty to, but I know I didn't do jail, so it's not a big deal. And then I look at it, and it's actually pretty serious. So that's why it's really, really important that you have an attorney that protects your interests. And then our attorneys, we work with you and your family together as a unit, so everybody is aware of what's going on, so that you're not mistaken or you're not signing any papers you don't understand.
Excellent. And the best thing of criminal law is that we actually give you a flat fee, right?
Yes.
So we give you a full price. We are not going to be charging you per hour. So it's something that you will know how much you need to pay at the end, and we do payment plans for you. So there is no excuse for you to be unrepresented in a criminal court proceeding.
Yeah, exactly. So we can put a lot of hours into your case, and it will be still the same fee, because we believe that's reasonable for you and that's cost efficient for you. We are doing all of this for your benefit. And like Alejandro was saying, there's no excuse. And all of our consultations are free. So come to us and talk to us. Even if you end up, maybe you don't want a lawyer in the end, that's okay. But just, there is no excuse for you not to talk to us.
Thank you so much, Janice,
Yes,
for giving this information today. I think people need to be, informed, because, again, when you are informed, you can actually take good decisions. And remember that we are here and that we have 5 different offices here in Colorado, where, you even can go on the weekend and you will have a person that can hear your case, and then it can be transferred to a lawyer to give you a full consultation. Thank you so much. And please follow us in our website on Campos Law Firm. Thank you. Have a good day. Thank you, Janice, again.
Thank you, Alejandra.